There is a moment in every life when you decide to rise, to stand taller than your fear, to speak louder than your doubt, to chase the vision that sets your soul on fire. This is that moment, and here we walk it together with stories that awaken, voices that inspire, and truths that set you free. This is Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald, where hope has a voice, and that voice is yours. And welcome to the show, everybody. My name is Kevin, and I think you know that. And Rochelle's right there. You probably know that too, right, Rochelle?
Well, I'd hope so by now. Hi, everybody. Love ya. Today we've got quite an ordinary show, don't you think, Kevin?
I think it's quite extraordinary.
Why do I always say? Okay, people, just know one thing. Okay, listen to my energy,
Intention.
not my words. Yes.
Your intention, not to what actually comes out of her mouth.
It's probably good that I don't have the job that Mr. Dr. Scott Geise did, because I think that wording probably matters. But welcome to the show. How are you? I'm very excited for this.
Well, I'm excited too. You know, I am an ordinary guy. I'm just like anybody else. But yeah, thanks so much for having me on. This is going to be fun.
And by the way, Dr. Scott is a dentist, and I would like you to talk Rochelle down from the walls, because she's scared of dentists.
Oh, I hear you. She's not alone. You know, I see patients every single day. It's just absolutely, I got to talk them off a cliff just to get them into the chair. So I tell you, it's if you get past it, you have a couple of good appointments. I tell you, it's not a big deal. You just got to find someone you trust, and it goes really easy.
Have you ever had somebody that was in your dentist chair and they get up and you can see the pattern of where they were laying because it's all wet? That's Rochelle.
Yep. It doesn't matter how many tissues you put in my hands, I will soak through every single one of them. Even if I'm acting completely calm, I am not. But I know what you mean about building the trust, because I did have an orthodontist I loved, but I mean, that's such a fragile space to be in. You're dealing with somebody's skull. So don't you have to trust yourself too?
Oh, absolutely. Again, I think patients, it's something having to do with the head and neck. You know, it's having work done in your mouth where you do. You know, it's very hard to fight against something if someone doesn't stop when you need them to stop. I get that completely. So
unless you bite down,
it's unsettling either way.
Yeah.
But you get a couple of good appointments, and I think after that, I tell you, it can be very, very easy.
Well, only if the first couple of appointments go well.
True.
And you can leave the appointment, and then when they say, you know, you're going to probably feel some pain when you get home, you might want to take some over-the-counter something. But then you don't have to, because there's no pain at all. That's a good dentist right there.
That's the way it's supposed to be. Absolutely.
Yeah. See, that's what I did experience. I actually didn't have too bad of a problem with it after overcoming braces for a few years. But then I had a bad experience as an adult. And needless to say, I haven't been back.
Yeah. Well, you got to find somebody you can trust. You got to look around then. That's what you got to do. Just don't put it off. You know, don't wait till things are bad. Wait till things
I know.
Things are easy.
I trust you.
Makes it a lot easier on both ends.
Indeed. And Dr. Scott, you have got quite a story to tell. And you've got a book that you've written about it. And Rochelle, if people want to follow along with the website, where do they go?
Yes, you can go to a disturbing injustice.book.com, and he's got the whole story and everything laid out for you right there. But better yet, we've got him here. So, doctor, please do tell us about this.
So, yeah, God, where do you start? I had a really successful practice in my hometown. Really, I went off to college, off to dental school. From dental school, I decided to do 3 years in the Army over in Germany. When I got home, all I wanted to do is just, hit the ground running, get a really nice practice started. I built a brand new dental facility after about 9 years of buying out the dentist that was my dentist growing up. So I worked with him for about 9-10 years. And then I just knew that practice had grown to the point where I needed a bigger place. So I built a brand new dental office. I just actually paid off the loan for that whole process like 2 months ago. But it was a huge project, brand new facility, state-of-the-art equipment. just beautiful. And so I just wanted to make a statement in my hometown. I wanted, people to be proud of something in my town, because it's, this was like the one stoplight town. Nothing ever changed. And, the whole time I was growing up, everybody said that when I came back to town, it was like everything had just changed. The downtown started to become more of a business area. It was people were walking around more. I built a gazebo in the middle of my property for the town to utilize. Really a neat spot where everything seemed to happen. So this is what I had dreamed about doing, coming home, build a dream practice and living in that town. So, and I still do live in that town. I just don't do as much with the town so much anymore, but only because I've had to work elsewhere. But as we talked a little bit before, I'm coming back home. I'm now back in the same area. So I'm starting to see patients I haven't seen in a long time.
Well, and that's really good. And building a practice with all new equipment and everything, you had everything going for you, and then something happened and you ended up in a John Grisham novel.
Yeah, no joke. And I've read a bunch of those novels, so I know what you're saying. But and there was a time when I had time to read those things too, so which was even more kind of ironic. But still, one of my employees did something that they shouldn't have done, and they were caught doing it. But in the process, they involved me because I don't know. It's the book probably displays it better than I can probably tell you in this podcast. But because of their mistake, I somehow got involved. Once the FBI got involved with me, I was kind of the bigger story, and my employee gave them kind of false information that made them come after me a little bit harder, which took the pressure off of her. And the more they went after me, the more they couldn't stop going after me. And one thing led to another, to the point where I'm in federal court, which was scary to even start to even think about. But I mean, I didn't want to. I never even wanted to see that side of the world, to tell you the truth. I didn't want anything to do with it. I just wanted to do the things I was doing. I was being very charitable to everybody that was in my practice. And, in the community, I supported every baseball team, every soccer team you can imagine. So yeah, I was just a community member that just wanted to do good for the people that were there. So,
Scott, a lot of us, or Dr. Scott, a lot of us don't have, I don't know if opportunity is the right word, but we don't have the occasion to have somebody who's in a business suit with maybe a top hat, and they come up to you and say, Dr. Geise, and you say yes, and they show you a badge that says, "Hi, I'm from the FBI." What is that moment like?
So in my case, again, it has nothing. It's so different from anything I've ever heard about. I was the husband of my employee gave me a piece of paper showing me what they had done wrong. He asked me if there's anything that I could do to help him out. And I said, well, if you were given something that you shouldn't have been given, give the money back. But because I didn't do something to help them, it sounded like they went on to push further to get me more involved. So I took that listing that he gave to me and took it to my corporate lawyer, because that's the only lawyer I knew of at the time. Asked him what I should do. And he said, well, I think we should talk to the FBI to get them squared, to show them that, you have nothing to do with this. I think that was a mistake, because, anything I said, even, facial expressions, they seemed like they took wrong. And somehow that implicated me with some part of it. So they just kept pushing. I was never arrested through this whole thing, which is kind of crazy. I still, the way things played out, I ended up having to go to prison for a year. But I was never arrested, never read my Miranda rights, never anything. All it was a process of them trying to find information against me. Me working with the criminal lawyer, actually 2 criminal lawyers, to try to offset all that. And it was just a waste of time. It was just one thing pushed to another thing, to another, to the point where they indicted me. So there was never anyone came up to me and said, oh my gosh, you're arrested. That never happened. So one day my lawyer called me and said, well, listen, Dr. Gus, I got bad news. It sounds like they're going to indict you. on charges. And I said, on charges of what? I don't understand what they can be. My employee had been trying to give them information to show that I did something wrong at the office or things, whatever she could come up with. So they used that information to go in front of a grand jury. She was their star witness. She was given immunity to talk against me, which is, again, they knew that she committed a crime. They knew that she took the money, but somehow she was their star witness against me. So that's how one thing goes from bad to worse. The FBI knows what to use to try to corner someone into court somehow, but unfortunately, a grand jury, it's a jury of our peers that, we all go out, we all have jury duty at some point. Sometimes you're on grand jury, sometimes you're just on a regular court appearance for a regular trial. But if you're on a grand jury, you have to realize that the federal prosecutors are the only people there. I'm not there. My criminal lawyers aren't there. It's simply the federal prosecutor throwing as much at a jury to show that there's something against this. This guy must have done something. And if they indict you, you're done. From that point on, you are in the system. I don't care. There's nothing to show. I could have shown them all the proof in the world that I was innocent, but they're not going to stop until they prosecute.
Have you ever heard the expression, a grand jury can indict a ham sandwich?
Yeah, that's the prosecutor's ability to do that. That's actually in the book, Kevin. I wrote that in the book because, yes, that's exactly what can happen. And it's simply because there's no defense on the accused side. There's no one to say, wait a minute, no, that's impossible or anything like that. And if they have someone that wants to accuse you of something, then that's their star witness. And again, in this case, it was the woman that actually committed the crime who's now the star witness for the FBI.
In this whole process, just purely out of curiosity, did you ever find that you're not the only one who's experienced something like this in your work?
So in dentistry, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, there's so many rules and codes and things. We have to follow so many things that you don't even realize on the opposite side of it. Just to be able to submit for insurance payment. Now, I could do the dental work that you need, Rochelle, and if you have insurance, phenomenal. They're going to pay hopefully part of what you owe for your service. Mm-hmm. But at the same point, if the insurance company doesn't pay what they should pay, well, now, we have to go back after a patient for what's owed, and then it's like this bad whatever omen that somehow now, okay, why are you coming after me for money when my insurance should have paid? Well, we have nothing to do with the insurance, and the insurance doesn't want to pay you or me. So unfortunately, we're both caught in that. And but as dentists are, I mean, as a whole, I think they're very honorable people. I think they wouldn't go in this profession otherwise. There's so many other things you should do. I went to dentistry because I wanted. My mom, when I told her I was going to go into dentistry, she turned absolutely white with fear because she said that this was the one thing she'd never wanted to ever see me or my brothers do. And because she was deathly afraid of her dentist growing up because they did things differently back then. And I said, well, Mom, I want to do it different so you don't feel that, so that is not a problem. But I'm telling you, to this day, my mom says when I tell her I got to bring her in so I can check her teeth, she just, she's like, oh no. And I'm like, oh, Bob, I'm not going to hurt you. And she goes, well, I know you're not. But she goes, oh my God, I could tell you stories. I said, oh, I know. But yeah, it's dentistry has changed a lot through the years. And I'm hoping, most dentists out there are doing a good job because they want to do a good job and they want to make sure they treat their patients well.
Right.
Well, and sometimes some of us have got huge dental problems and some of us don't, Rochelle. And because she was in an orthodontist, but how many cavities have you had in your life, Rochelle?
Under 10, I believe.
My
mom used to sing this no cavity song that would drive me nuts as a teenager, and there was power in those words. Okay.
You have to teach me that song again, Rochelle.
And I grew up a little bit earlier than you. I used to go to the dentist and I would have 10 cavities every 6 months because when I was a child, they used something called tetracycline, which was an antibiotic that helped you if you had ear infections, which I had a bunch of ear infections, and that retards the enamel on your teeth. And so for the rest of your days, and they didn't know that back then, or they wouldn't have used it. And so I used to have I spent more time in a dentist chair than you spent doing this podcast with me. So
well, it's usually from candy. That's why I'm very surprised at your relation to it. Because I wasn't allowed to eat much sweets or candy.
Yeah.
So I kind of didn't have to worry about that. But that is a good question, Kevin, because we should talk about that when we come back from this break of what exactly does cause cavities.
That would be good to know. And by the way, we're talking with Dr. Scott Geise, and his website again, Rochelle, is. And by the way, get his book. It's a great read, and it's got twists and turns, and it'll make you angry because at one point in time, the FBI said to somebody, well, you're in a lot of trouble here. However, if you turn state's evidence, we'll give you immunity so that you don't have to worry about that. And then that individual start looking for somebody else to blame because they didn't want to go to jail themselves. And when we come back, I want to ask Dr. Scott about that because that seems wholly unfair to me. And we will be right back. What are we going to play, Michelle?
Oh, man, we don't have one that reminds me of teeth, thank goodness. But we do have one about integrity, and I think as a dentist, that's probably pretty important.
I couldn't agree more. And if I help me, Rochelle, I can't find it.
Okay, I got it. Ready? Here we go. We'll be right back.
Here's another point to ponder from Positive Talk Radio. What is the easiest thing to justify? It is a small transgression. The one no one will ever see, no one will ever know. The tiny exaggeration on the expense report. The extra minute you took on your lunch break. The packaging you tossed in the wrong recycle bin because it was closer. In those moments, the question isn't, will I get caught? The question is, will I know? It isn't about avoiding punishment. It's a silent agreement you make with yourself when you choose to do the right thing. To return the wallet. To fix the mistake. To respect the empty space. You aren't impressing the world. You're earning your own respect. That small choice, made entirely in private, is how you build a life you never have to look away from. The only audience that matters is you. And welcome back to Positive Talk. Rochelle, that was a brilliant one to play at that particular moment. So thank you for that. Dr. Scott Geise is with us. And Rochelle, go to his website again, which is
actually the book. So that's why we're talking about it. A disturbinginjusticebook.com is where to go to find the story and the book itself. And Kevin, do you want to ask your question first?
I do. Do you have, when all this came down, Dr. Scott, did you say, but where the hell is the integrity?
Of the FBI? Of the legal system?
The legal system, the grand jury, the lady who got immunity?
Absolutely. From the get-go, I thought that the system was set up to protect the innocent. We all hear that all the time, and it's just that sometimes the power of the prosecutor overrules that a little bit, and unfortunately, the innocent doesn't always have the ability to protect themselves. And we want to be able to trust the system. We want to have integrity in the system, but there are times when this certainly puts a big nick in that. So that's why I had to write the book. I had to show people exactly what happened. And they can believe what I write, or they don't have to believe what I write. But it took me 3 years to write it, going through it, editing it over and over and over again to make sure I wasn't biased in the writing. I want people to make their own decision as to what, I mean, I pretty much spell out what happened, and whether they feel that I'm somehow at fault for not seeing it coming or whatever, that's, totally up to them. But yeah, the book is written in a way, I'm hoping that it's easy to read. Most people that do read the book go through it in about 3 days because they can't put the thing down, because they want to know what's coming next, because I couldn't believe what was coming next, when I was going through it. And I think the book does a good job of showing people, how you have to kind of watch out for certain things. And especially if you're accused of something, what you should or should not do, especially if the FBI is involved.
How did you keep yourself? Did you learn a lot about self-discipline and regulation through this process? Because if that was me, I'd be probably just in rage.
Oh, believe me, I do talk about it in the book too, but I was recently separated at the time, divorced in 2002, 2003. I had 3 boys. At that time, I had a 3-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 7-year-old. So I had joint custody with my ex-wife. So I had the boys half the time. So going through this starting in 2006, so my youngest was 6, 8, and 10 at that point. They're in kindergarten, first grade, they're young boys that need, their dad. So when my ex-wife had the boys, I was totally involved in this, nightmare of the law. And then when I had them with me, I had to try to make it look like there was nothing else going on. So it was just back and forth for, 4 years. It went from all the way from 2006 to 2010 was kind of the nightmare. And that was just the beginning. Prison was in 2011. And then in 2012, they revoked my license for dentistry because of the conviction. So it was a long, drawn out process, from 2006, which is when it all kind of started. So,
but yeah, you got it back.
Like the two. I don't know. So I don't know how I kept it. I have a really strong family here. My mom and dad are phenomenal. So they helped me a lot during those times, because it's hard to keep your head straight through things like that. It's being accused of something you didn't do is bad enough, but being accused of something that leads to loss of a career and all these good things that were happening in a small town was thrown away because the FBI wanted to keep pushing this thing that somehow they felt justified in doing. But when you look at it at the end, it's like, are you kidding me? This is what it was all over. So yeah, it's difficult to imagine.
But then you got your license back.
So in 2012, I lost it, and then I had to wait 3 years. The New York State Education Department doesn't allow any dentist to own a practice with a conviction.
Right.
So as soon as I got the conviction, that meant I had to sell the practice. So then it's a 3-year wait before you can start to reapply. 3 years, I started working on writing this book to give my side of the story, because anybody that came up to me had no idea. People who know me from my childhood had no idea what happened. Yeah, they stood behind me and said, listen, what they're saying about Dr. Geise isn't true. But at the same point, they still had no idea what actually did happen. Most people would say, well, there must have been some bit of truth in it. There must have been something that he did. So the book was a way to start to show people, okay, wait a minute, this is what happened. Read the book. I could sit down with you for the next weekend and probably tell you, but the book's easier to go through, and you read it in 3 days. so that's kind of how that worked out. But yeah, it was kind of a frightening thing to lose my career after I spent all this money. Like I said, I just paid off the mortgage for these properties that I paid for way back then to build a brand new facility for the town. And so yeah, it was a long wait. So losing my license for those 3 years till 2015. And then each process was a 1-day event, 1 year apart. So I had to go in front of a board of people. Each time I went in front of those boards, it was a unanimous decision to give me back my license because they saw what happened. But it took three of those boards, so a year apart. So it's another 3 years. So I didn't get it back till 2018. And so I've been back in practice since then. Back seeing patients and getting back to where I was. So,
Congratulations.
yeah, thanks. It's kind of a long haul.
I bet.
Crazy.
Dr. Geise, I have to tell you, I like to tell people that I had a bad country music song, period. You had a bad country music song on steroids, period.
Unbelievable. I can tell you guys stories that it's incredible what happened during that time. But this is Positive Talk Radio, right? And I'm telling you, like, if you don't have a positive attitude going into that, you're gonna lose it. I saw so many people. Again, in 2011, I had to go away. I had to go to prison down in just north of Scranton, PA. So I get there, and again, I have no idea what's coming. I mean, I was in the Army for 3 years, so I figured my whole family called it my deployment. I was going away. And I treated it as a deployment. I was like, listen, and again, I was, back in the Army boots and, prison clothing, but federal prison camps are more like it's a one big building with 75 bunk beds. So there's 150 inmates in there. Federal prison camps are used for a lot of the maintenance and the cheap labor for major. So the one down in Scranton was a high security prison in Scranton, or in Canaan, and then the camp was associated with it. So we were like the work service around it. So there was no walls or anything like that. There was no fences that kept me in, but we got counted 5 times a day. And if you weren't where you were supposed to be, then you went up to the medium prison camps. So you lost the privilege of being in no walls, generally no issues kind of a place. So no one screwed around with that. So, but I met all these people that had different stories of things that happened that just would break your heart. I mean, young men that somehow were involved with marijuana back in those days, and most of them were accused of being the kingpin when they just were the guy that delivered something for someone else. So they took a big hit and were in prison for 6 years at a time. So I was lucky to have 15 months. They had 6 years.
Do you think that your whole thing was due to an overzealous prosecutor, or why did they why did they keep pursuing you? It doesn't. I've read your stuff, and it doesn't. The quote unquote crime doesn't, because there's a lot of resources that go into what they did to you, and then incarcerate you for a year, and at taxpayer expenses.
Yep.
All they had to say was, "Don't do that again," and you didn't even do it the first time.
Yeah.
Correct. And I've never had any other criminal activity in my life. I don't think I've had maybe 2 parking tickets. I think that maybe, but other than that, nothing. Yeah. But yeah, no. So I say the same thing, and my lawyers were saying the same about it. They're like, listen, you're going to probably they'll probably have you pay a fine or something, but probably no. It's very unlikely you'll ever get any prison time. I'm like, but then when I end up having to plea out to ridiculous stuff, that's exactly what happened. So it's just one push to the next.
Because they had a witness that had immunity, and that witness could tell them anything that she wanted, and they would believe it, because that's how that worked. I'm so sorry that our justice system did that to you.
I appreciate it. It's I guess by writing the book too, I want people to learn so that they too don't. The more people that see injustice, and the more they act up about it, and the more they are vocal about things, the better things get a chance to change. So I think it was Martin Luther King who said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Yep. So it's so true, and unless you see something happen that absolutely should not have happened. Believe me, I had 60 people from town here write me letters for the judge, explaining to them what a person I am, the things I do in town every day. And that still didn't come down to, Dr. Geise, we're going to, this is a slap on the wrist, don't do this again. But that didn't happen either. So I think at the time when I was first being looked at as a criminal, there was a push in New York State to, in 2005, there's a push across the state to come down on doctors that were abusing Medicaid and Medicare and Medicaid. I've never participated in any of those programs, so I should be completely avoid of all of that stuff. But at that time, it was like showing that a doctor did something with and against insurances or something. My case just happened to come into that because of the information that my employee gave had to do with insurances, and somehow I fit into that little notch that they could go after to somehow prosecute and fulfill that notch in their belt for, well, yeah, we prosecuted a doctor for insurance fraud.
And I know the conversation that they were having with themselves. They were having, well, we need a token crucifixion, and here's a guy that we can give a token crucifixion to, and it'll teach everybody else a lesson. To hell with what was going to happen to you. You were a side victim of that whole, because it's frustrating. When we come back, I want to talk to you about the court system, the justice system, and how when you go talk to people, if you have to go talk to somebody, and keep your big mouth shut, because you
don't say too much. I've learned talk as little as possible.
We'll go into that if you want to.
Well, it's instructive for people that because when they say everything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law, they ain't kidding around. They really mean it. Yeah, and we'll be right back right after this station break. Stay with us, everybody. You're listening to Positive Talk Radio Network. We're on a mission to entertain, enlighten, empower, and educate through inspiring music, dynamic conversations, and yes, laughter. Join me, Kevin McDonald and Brishelle, as we declare our freedom from hate, division, and fear, and celebrate a better way of living. Go to positivetalkradio.net to find out more. Here's another point to ponder by Positive Talk Radio. The world doesn't need more noise. Everyone knows we have enough of that. What we need is more listening. Because listening creates understanding. Listening builds bridges. And listening reminds people that they matter. Real progress happens when we slow down long enough to hear one another. Not to fix, not to judge, just to understand someone else's point of view. When conversations are rooted in respect and humanity, they have the power to heal, inspire, and move people forward. That's our mission. That's why we're here. I hope you'll join us. And welcome back, everybody. Michelle, say hello to everybody.
Hey, everybody. I hope you're listening closely. Dr. Scott is here to tell us exactly why our system of all things is much scarier than the dentist. So that's what I'm learning, at least.
Good point.
Unless you're a dentist. Now, maybe the FBI guys and the prosecutor had bad experiences with dentists, so they wanted to create a token crucifixion. I don't know, but talk about how if you have to get involved in the justice system, keep your mouth shut.
Yeah, I think that's probably the number one rule. In my case, the FBI came and talked to me about treatment and stuff for the insurance part of things, and I was willing to give them anything they needed. I had no issue of showing that I was totally innocent of whatever they were talking about. And they were mostly talking about the couple that actually committed the crime. So I had to verify treatment for them and different things. And but when they said that they had submitted something to a local union, they wanted to know who made a bill for them, who submitted a bill for them so they could get paid. And I said, I have no idea who submitted or made the bill or submitted, because I would talk to the people who submitted it. I don't know. You must know who got the money. So that's probably who submitted it. And the more they talked, they kept trying to put it on me. And I said, listen, I I don't even know where the union is. So I don't know why you're asking me. And so from that, some of the things that they used some of that to make it sound like I had a role in getting this bill paid for them through the union. So again, I actually put it in the book. I actually submitted what they were using as evidence against me as something that I submitted to the union for them. It doesn't even look like a bill. There's not even a dollar sign out there. When we submit something to a union or to a insurance company, there's a lot of things that got to be on there. It's like, okay, what did you do? What day did you do it? What'd you charge? What's the code for that? And then you have to verify it by putting a signature saying, okay, I verify that this stuff was done. None of that's on. There's not even a dollar sign on there. There's just numbers and procedures, but that's it. So all the way along, I'm saying this, you cannot use this as a bill in dentistry. There's no way that you could I said, it would be easier for me if you asked me, what does a $100 bill look like? And I said, yeah, I know what one looks like. I could probably, I can draw one with a crayon for you. And so if I drew it for you, and then you took it to the bank and the clerk there gave you the $100 and change, or the 250s, whatever you asked for, who's at fault here? Is it because I drew the $100 bill, or is it because, you took it to someone who was in cahoots with you to get the money, So it just, and because of that, somehow they thought, and I think I said that to them in the interview. I'm like, come on, this is so dumb. But anyways, that's some of the things that they wanted to use against me is that, again, things that I should have said nothing and just said, unless you have something against me, show me, and I'll get a lawyer and go from there. But as soon as you start talking to them, that's when things go awry.
Well, and I got sued one time for $50,000. First of all, a couple things that I did not know, Doctor. One is you can sue anybody for anything at any time, and there's no proof that you need to present at that moment in time. So it took 2.5 years for us to clean this up, and it was dismissed with prejudice, which means she couldn't bring it back again. So it was just totally a vindictive moment in time in my case. And in your case, you had to have lawyers involved because they speak. Rochelle, do you know the lawyers speak a whole different language? It looks like the same language, but it's a completely different language. They mean different things.
Yeah, that's why I let them talk. I tell them and they talk.
and I'm telling you, most of the stuff that I learned law, I did do it when I was in prison. I mean, that's the only time once I got there, I was upset about obviously what happened. And there was a law library, which is exactly one terminal to a computer. But you could look up old cases, and through the old case, you could kind of reverse engineer what happened. So a friend of mine that I met there, he had been there for a bit, and he was trying to do an appeal for his own case. And so he was teaching me a little bit of how to do that. When you have 150 people in one place, those computers are used for doing your emails, different things. So those computers are full all the time. It just happened that I was able to get a job at the camp that was kind of offset in hours. So the guy that I was talking about, my friend, he too was working at it's like the power plant on the camp, and there you did water treatment stuff. You had to do stuff for the air conditioning, heating, but there's only 2 spots there, and one of the guys that was there with him had to leave to go for his appeal back home. So that spot was open. So I jumped into that spot because of my dental background. I could do the water test. I could do the other things. So I was able to do that job, and that job was totally offset from the other 148 people there. So we had the ability to work at nighttime, and then have the whole place open during the day to us when everybody else was working everywhere else. So that's the way we could jump on the law library terminal and start to learn some of this stuff. Because otherwise it was, I'm telling you, when everybody's back at that camp, all in the same building, it is an absolute rat race. So it's like, it's like if I had headphones, I would have put them on and just tried to zone all that stuff out. But fortunately, I had that job. I was able to miss most of that stuff because of just the employment I had at the time. So
Go ahead,
I
Rochelle.
never learned it otherwise.
Yeah, I've got quite the question because I'm thinking about your experience in total. And for me, was there something that you had to kind of break through in yourself to be able to trust your employees again? Because you could be mad at her and she went off, they did whatever they did with their life, whatever happened. But
Yeah.
for you still sit with it. So what was it like trying to start that all over again and be worried about that happening?
So in dentistry, things are pretty solid. Like there's a system there. This happened because my employee's husband worked for the union. So this is mostly out of his side of stuff that things happened that got this all going. So it was, and it wasn't so much the dental side of it. It was more so her. She would have had some troubles with her licensure.
Right. So it's not just the employee, it's just a person in general. Like, did that affect you?
It does. Believe it. I have a hard time trusting people today, obviously after all this, but I already had a core group of people that are my friends, I've got really phenomenal friends and family. So, again, through the book, the only thing that got me through most of that was just because I had that support system. Yeah. Most of these other guys at Canaan did not, so I tried to be kind of a big brother to a lot of these guys because I had the system at home. I had everything else going for me. And it's funny because one of the young guys that I kind of took over under my wing, Blaze, again, I think his was another, drug related issue, but young kid, probably 21, just kind of down about things. And so I had we have to buy everything, but I had a radio that I was given from somebody else that had left. And I gave it to Blaze because he needed something to get through the next day, it seemed like. But anyways, Blaze became a friend of mine, and Blaze would call me Geise. And the reason behind that is because mail that would come each day, they would call out names, be like, okay, Brown, Green, Geise. But then there'd be another one. They go Geise, and then I have another letter, Geise. So Geise, because I got so much mail from people at home and people from patients would write to me saying, "Doc, we're waiting for you. Just come home. Just get back." So yeah, it's funny. But yeah. If I didn't have that, it would have been very, very difficult to separate things. Oh my God, do I have something to come back to or don't I? I had no idea, but yeah, my really close family and friends really kept me going.
Good.
I got to ask you this because I live in a 55 plus community, and sometimes people die or people go to the next level of care, and they'll have kind of a garage sale kind of thing. And so I was out looking at some of the stuff, and a guy walks up to me and he goes, "Man, this is just like prison." And I said, "Huh?" And he said, "Yeah, when somebody leaves in prison and they don't take everything, then we all go and we do kind of a garage sale and see." And it's like, oh God, I didn't ask him how long he'd been in prison for. I just said, "Have a nice day. See you later."
It's like Toy Story and all the toys like cleaning up. That's kind of how that goes. Yeah.
It is amazing to me the things that we never hear about that are just common everyday things that happen in a setting like that.
Yeah, believe me, I didn't know what was coming, and every day there was something new, something funny, and I wrote a lot of those things down because it's just like, oh my God, that. I think that saying came from prison because you just can't make this stuff up. Because that's just. Everybody, you heard that every day, oh my God, you just can't make this stuff up. And just people playing chess and, games that just crazy. When there was downtime, when you weren't working and you had time to do whatever, it was just a madhouse, things going on everywhere. So it's just kind of wild. But yeah, I wrote a lot of those things down. So I could probably write another book just on, that experience, things you just can't make up,
It's amazing to me. And congratulations, you made it through. But when you were in court and the judge rendered his decision and then decided that you were going to spend some time behind bars, what did that feel like?
So it's funny, like I told you guys, I had people write letters to the judge, and I had, when you go into the courtroom, it's almost like, going into a wedding. It's like the prosecutor's side and you got the accused side. Well, my people filled the accused side and almost all of the prosecutor's side because they wanted to be there in my support on that day when that judge is doing sentencing. And the judge, he left for like 15 minutes, and you could just tell, the way he was, looking at me and things. I didn't think it was going to go well, but I thought at the most I was going to have to pay something. I told my lawyers, I go, I don't care. I don't care about the money. I could care less. I just, I want to be with my family. I want to be, so again, they pretty much told me, it's pretty, rare that you would have to go away to prison. Well, when he came back and told me I was doing 15 months, there was not a dry eye in that courtroom. I could just hear people behind me. It was just like, oh my God. I didn't want to turn around because my mom and dad are sitting in the front row. But it's just crazy, to think that happened. But and here I am able to walk out of there and still walk up. It's not like they handcuffed me and took me away. It's just like, okay, you got to come back here in so many days and this, and then you're going to have to self-surrender to federal prison camp. So self-surrender means you got to drive yourself there and walk in and say, hey, here I am, take me away. So I do talk about that in the book as well, how that we approached that. My mom and dad and my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, how we went down there and what we did leading up to that. It's just surreal. For them to have to drive back home, that's 5.5 hours away. So it's a long drive to take me down there and then have to come back. I worried about them going home.
Like a temporary death for your family.
Yeah, it's so true. It's like this kind of how it was. It's like they got it. Okay, there you go. We just buried you, and we'll see you
on the other side.
He is risen. Because Doctor, I got to ask you, the judge left for 15 minutes. Do you think it was so that he could take a couple of shots before he had to render his verdict?
I hate to say, what leads people to do what they do, and what the pressures are on the other side of things. I don't know, but just like you guys say, it's like, you do unto others as you want them to do unto you. If you see something that's not right, do what's right. You should be doing what's right. And sometimes that doesn't happen. And unfortunately, I was the recipient of the downside of that. But I don't know. You learn from things every day. We all go through hardship. One way or another. You lose a loved one, or you lose a job, or something comes up. that you got to go through your day. But just, I don't know, just is getting through that and knowing, looking forward to see what's coming and wanting to have something good come out of it in the end. And I think that the whole time I was away in prison, the same thing. I just wanted something good to come out of it. So, I worked on my appeal. I worked on trying to fix healthcare with another dentist that was in there. My buddy that was talked about earlier. We were busy. I try to keep my mind busy on something, that was worthwhile. And it happened. We put a plan together really to reshape healthcare in the United States, and unfortunately with a conviction and a felony under your belt, sometimes people don't, take you seriously. And unfortunately they don't, to the people that know the most, to me, it was like two dentists sitting in prison. It was a think tank of two people. We would never get that opportunity otherwise to really jump on something and really figure it out. We figured this stuff out, and we figured out how to do it. We got it right down to numbers. We're using numbers from like an old almanac in the library because that's the only thing we had. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have anything to look up numbers, but yeah, we figured this stuff out right down to where the facilities would go. We drew a map of where each hospital would be. We were on it. So So just, I say it's like, bad things happen, but if you try to find something good in it and try to learn from it a little bit, I think no matter what happens to you, you're going to come out on the high side of it. So,
Of course.
That really sounds like a bad joke. You see, there are these two dentists and they're sitting in prison. You're waiting for the punchline.
No joke.
And I'd say that you still did do what was right, because if they had done that to me, I probably would have had more time because of how I would have reacted in that moment.
I know. Believe me, it was difficult.
You've been able to tell us that you've had some of your customers from before come back. Tell us what that feels like.
So the day I got back from being away, my staff was still working there with the associate dentist that I had there. So they were all going full bore while I was gone. Good. And the day I came back, I had a full book of patients again. They were all waiting for me to come back. So it was a phenomenal feeling, like just, and believe me, I got letters all the way through the whole, time I was away. I got so many letters and just from people that they just told me, just hang in there, doc, you're getting it out of there. But unfortunately, because of the conviction, I had to fight with New York State Education Department after that. And that's when I had to lose my license the following year in 12. I tried to fight that too, but it was pretty much did you have a conviction? Yes. Do you have a felony? Yes. You lose your license. That's pretty much how that went. So I had to wait for the 3 years to reapply again.
Did you ever think about lying about that?
It's pretty much public knowledge,
I did that when I got my DUI, and I remember I got a car back and did the whole 9 yards, and I'm filling out insurance. It says, do you have anything on your record? No. Well, they found it.
It's there.
It doesn't always work that way, but no. You are like the definition of Kevin, what do we say? Resilience and
resiliency. Yes.
Yeah. You just keep swimming, right?
It's funny. Again, back to the book again. I had a really famous coach that was my JV coach back in Newfane, John Beeline. He went on to be the Michigan University coach. He's probably one of the most renowned coaches in college basketball, John Beeline. Anyways, he always told us the best thing you can do for your team is to stand your ground and take a charge, because what you're doing is the other team's going to get a foul. It puts them in foul trouble. You're taking a hit for the team, and then, get back up and get ready to do it again. So I wrote in the book, that was, I took like 37 charges in one season. Most people take 2. I took 37 in one season. And my coach said to me, he goes, even all the way through his career, he goes, guys, you could probably, take a charge on a small compact car or whatever. He goes, and you stand right back up again, waiting for the next one. I said, well, that's what you just told us to do, coach. So I'm doing it. But I always told him, every time I've seen him since, I said, talk about resilience, you got to stand, whatever hits you, you got to stand back up again, get up and then move on, learn from what happened. And, either you get out of the way of the next one because that's the smart thing to do, or, you just got to learn from what happened and move on. So again, we're all going to have hardships, and we're all going to have things that really screw up your day, but look at it and move on, because tomorrow's coming. So, make something good out of it and keep going.
And Rochelle, again, we're talking about Dr. Scott Geise and his website again, and the name of his book, please.
Yes, the website is the book, so go to it. It's a injusticebook.com, and please do tell us where all this is available, Scott, if anybody wants to go find it other than your website.
So on Amazon, you can just look up my name, Dr. Scott Geise, or A Disturbing Injustice, and you'll see my mug on the cover. It looks like that. So when you see it, but it's on Amazon. That's where only place you can buy it right now. There'll probably be in other places soon, but yeah, they can buy it there. And and if you read it and you like it, just write a review. A quick review is great for other people, so they start to look at it as well. But I think there's a few things in my book that everybody should know, and it's just good knowledge to have if you ever have anything legally come up. It's worthwhile to know, so you have a little bit better insight than I did going into it. So
very good.
And I would like to suggest, if you're interested in getting Dr. Scott's book, go to your local mom and pop bookseller that's in your neighborhood and say, hey, by the way, A Disturbing Injustice, do you have that book? And they'll look it up in their computer and they'll say, well, no, we don't, but we can order it. Okay, why don't you order 10 copies and I'll buy one and then you stick 9 on the shelf because this is going to be an important work. Is that a good idea, Doctor?
I love it.
And you're supporting a mom and pop bookseller at the same time because it's hard out there and they're doing it because of the passion that they have for it. So let's take care of the small mom and pops that are out there and stuff. Right, Rochelle?
Right. And Doctor, before we go, I have to ask you from your own words what it was like to experience being tested in your passion so much, because I think there's other ways people are tested in something they love to do, but you got to do it and then was stripped to have to earn it and achieve it all back. What would you say to somebody if they felt like they were in the midst of that?
Especially me, because I'd have cried like a little girl.
Yeah.
Well, it's your passion. It's your passion. It's like, no one should be able to take that away from you. So if there's something that you really desire to do, again, everybody says all these things like, oh, you're never too old to start. You're never too old to start anything, and if there's something that you really love doing, and I'm telling you, my patients tell me all the time that, oh my God, I didn't feel that shot, or, oh my God, I never felt the thing, those are the things that keep me going every day because I want to do it better the next time. And then the next patient is going to say the same thing. So to me, it was getting back to those people that I wanted to treat and be there for. Anybody else who's got, a passion to do something else, same thing. If it's being very difficult or something comes up, don't let anybody take that away from you. They shouldn't be able to take it away from you. If you want to do it, you go right back to it and keep moving.
Have you thought about writing another book, perhaps on motivation through adversity?
A couple of people had suggested, but after they read the book, they're going, "Oh my God, if this is not going to be a movie, and who's going to play you in the movie?" Or, "Oh my God, you got to write another book." And I said, "Well, I got so many. I wrote so many things in those 3 years that I was not working in dentistry. It's a very good possibility."
Well, when you get compared to John Grissom, that's pretty high praise.
Well, thank you.
Just
Yeah.
saying.
Yes, indeed. And I want to thank you, Dr. Scott, for being here. And I'm just appalled, that the justice system can do that to someone and be so wrong and give immunity to somebody. And I don't know what the motivation would have been. But I'm sorry that you had to go through that. And more importantly, I'm sorry your boys and girls had to go through that. How are your kids today?
I have 2 boys in the Army. One's a doctor. He's going to be a radiologist.
Mhm.
The second one's a aerospace engineer. And the third one's a lieutenant in the Army in Virginia. I'm so proud of all 3 of them. They're doing so well.
Thank them for their service, especially in this really crappy time that we're in right now.
Yep. You and I both worry about it. Yeah. And it's hopefully things come. I hope the world becomes a little more sane soon.
It can't get a whole lot more insane, Rochelle.
We don't need to test that, so let's make it possible, people.
That'd be awesome.
We don't need a bunch of me running around. So, but yes, thank you so much, Dr. Scott, for just being the person you are and being so willing to share your story and allow this to provide knowledge for people rather than for it to shut you down and guide you off of your purpose, and to tell people that it's worth it if you believe so, right? Anything you believe you're right. That's what I say.
I say so too.
Okay, good.
Thanks so much for having me on, you guys. Thanks so much.
Of course.
So when the next book starts to come out, you're going to need to come back. We'll need to talk about it, and we really appreciate you and your story. And the one thing before we go, I wanted to mention this too. You had a felony conviction, but it was for a non-related thing. It had nothing to do with dentistry, and yet they took your license away anyway. So
an insurance fraud felony is what I had to plea out to. It does have something to do. It doesn't matter anyways. I could be a felony in anything. Dentistry doesn't always. New York State doesn't always allow you to keep your licensure with that. even though it doesn't include dentistry. It doesn't have to be.
Interesting.
Yeah. Learn about your local laws, people. Start there.
True.
And Dr. Scott spent several years working about improving our healthcare system. I don't know if you know this, ladies and gentlemen, but right now our healthcare system is not doing real well, and we can do much better than we've done in the past. Don't you think, Doctor?
I believe so completely.
And so, Rochelle, go ahead and take us out, my dear.
Well, thank you, Kevin, for an amazing day and making these conversations possible. Thank you, Dr. Scott. I can't wait for you to come back and tell us the news you have coming in your near journey. And everybody, go to his website, adisturbinginjustice.com. You can go to Amazon by searching his name, Dr. Scott Geise, and searching the book, and then at adisturbinginjustice.com. Just thank you so much, Scott, and congratulations. And tell everybody in your office we said hi, and feel free to tune in there too so they can hear you through us.
I sure will. Thanks you guys so much.
Thank you.
Have a great day, everybody, and thank you so much, Rochelle, and thank you, Dr. Scott Geise, for being here. This was a great show again. Thank you for being part of Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald, where stories inspire and voices remind us of what truly matters. May today's conversation give you hope, courage, and a reason to keep moving forward. And just remember, till next time, be kind to one another because each other's all we've got.